of My Xbox and Me. I am one of your hosts, MC Fixer, alongside a confused-looking Crash. How are you, Crash? Are you okay?
I'm very okay.
We started, and I was like, "Are you good to go?" You're like, "Yeah, let's start." And then like your face was sort of like, I'm not sure what I'm looking at here.
Okay. You're live streaming this, and I was trying to pop out chat, and I don't know what Twitch did. I don't know how to pop out chat anymore.
Okay, that's fine. It's like if you don't know, I'm live over on twitch.tv/MCFixer. For those of you who don't know, you probably clicked this because you know what this is. But if you don't know, today we will be doing a Gears 5 review and a Gears 5 spoiler cast on this special episode. If you want more of these, please be sure to hit the subscribe button over on the podcast services, whether it's iTunes, SoundCloud, Google Play, Spotify, wherever it is you listen to podcasts. We should be there, and if we're not, let us know, email in or tweet at us, and we will go and get that. The idea come about because you mentioned it. Did you mention 2 weeks episodes ago? You mentioned doing a spoiler cast, and then a couple of people have reached out saying, "Yeah, you should do that." I remember Angel Boy tweeted at us. Paul then asked a question. A few other people like, I'm actually excited for the spoiler cast. Zyga messaged me the other day saying he thought it was up already, and I'm like, oh, okay, people. It's weird when you say to people, tell us that you want it, and only 2 people tell you. You're like, oh, okay, nobody wants it, and then like you don't do it, and people are like, well, where's the spoiler cast? Like, oh, you just want us to do it. You know, you can't be bothered to like go on Twitter that you're already on and just like.
But we're not wasting our time.
Exactly. Yeah. So we'll find out if this is a. If this was a, I was going to ask to be on it. Get the hell out of it, Zyga. Jesus Christ. Think I run a charity around here? Whoa. If you take your spot, I'm just not doing it. I just like, you convinced me to do this time. Like, I was,
okay.
I didn't, with everything that's gone on with Gears World, which we will talk about very, very soon, I sort of like, Gears is done now. Like, I'm looking forward to go play multiplayer. I'll play a bit of Escape. I'll play Horde. But the story's done now, finally. It was spoilt for me, the ending, which we'll get to, and stuff like that. This whole beginning part of the portion of the podcast as well is spoiler-free. So that is good. If you want to listen to this first bit, you'll know very specifically where we get to when it comes to spoilers. But what I was trying to get at here was, I was doing the show notes and stuff, and I was like, okay, this can actually become a regular thing. So if people do enjoy this, let us know, and maybe we'll do one for Borderlands 3 next. Crash is very close to the end, and I'm totally down to do one, so yeah. Enough chit-chat, though. Let's get into this, Crash. So the plot of this game for Gears of War 5 starts like this, which is, it is set after the events of Gears of War 4, and the world is crumbling. The Swarm have corrupted the Correlations Reboot and Correlations Reboot army. Is that right? Coalition's
army.
Correlation, that's the studio. I did think it when I read it. I was like, that doesn't sound right. And it's descending upon human cities, with danger closing in.
Wait. The Cogs Robot Army, not Coalition. Coalition's the studio that makes the game.
This is from the official Gears 5 Wikipedia.
Okay.
This is official.
Okay.
So this is not like MC Fixer writ this out. Okay. This is official. So if you want to take it up with anyone, you go take it up with Wikipedia, all right? You go do that, all right?
Wait, Wikipedia is not official.
This is official again here. With danger closing in, Kate Diaz breaks away to uncover her connection to the enemy and discover the true danger to they said it a couple of times, but is it Sera? S-E-R-A. Sera?
Sarah.
Sarah?
I always thought it was Sarah.
You're probably right. I'm dyslexic. Herself. The game narrative is centered on Kate Diaz, and as she journeys across Sera to uncover the origins of
now you're making me think
Locust.
That's wrong.
I don't know. It doesn't matter, dude. It doesn't matter. The plot's out of the way. Few fun facts about Gears of War 5. The game essentially was leaked in May 2018 for a Walmart listing. It was officially unveiled at E3 2018. In a break from previous games, the game's official title is Gears 5, dropping the Of War part of the title. This was a change that Rod Ferguson was pushing for, as using Of War in conjunction with titles such as Gears Pop and Gears Tactics felt cumbersome. He noted that Gears X was already common shorthand to describe the number installments of the series. Xbox marketing boss Aaron Greenberg clarified that the series itself still retains the name Gears of War, though actual installments will simply use Gears title. It was also decided to have more levels take place during the day in comparison to Gears of War 4, where much of the game took place at night. I just thought we'd add some fun facts in there. Some of the stuff we already knew, but it's nice to have a little bit more information about it. Stuff that we've spoken about. Obviously, the Gears of the of War stuff is all pretty self-explanatory, but it's nice to hear it from the horse's mouth and hear it from the official Gears 5 Wikipedia, Crash. Official, all right? Official. Spoiler-free talk, Crash. So let's start right here. A quick overview of the game. You finished the campaign.
Yes.
You have played a lot of versus.
Yes.
You played a little bit of Escape.
Yes.
And no Horde.
Played 2 matches of Horde to get one of my tour of duties.
Okay.
It wasn't because I was like, yo,
not because you wanted to play Horde. Yeah, because you're a liar, but we'll get into that a bit later too.
Well,
we'll get into that later.
If I'm a liar, you're a liar.
I'm definitely a liar. Definitely.
Okay.
Don't trust the word that comes out of my mouth, alright?
Okay.
What do you think of Gears of War 5 on a grand level? Not the nitty-gritty stuff, just a strictly what are your opinions of the game, first of all. Then we'll get into these questions afterwards. But first of all, if someone says to you, what did you think of Gears of War 5, what do you say?
I think it's a top-tier game. I think it's AAA.
Okay.
Of course. But I think it's on par or as close as Microsoft's come to being on par with like one of Sony's first party exclusives.
Oh, okay. Interesting. I don't compare the two anymore. I'm an Xbox guy, don't get me wrong. I cover Xbox. This is my Xbox and me. Sony is so far better at single player, and this is where we'll get into the conversation, but as single player, story-driven narrative games, I think Sony stories are way better. The problem I always found with Xbox is they are more multiplayer centric most of the time. Even Gears of War, this Gears of War campaign can be played from start to finish, free player.
Yeah.
Unique decision to make a 3-player story instead of a 4-player, because that's what we're used to. And to have one of the players be Jack, which some people will I feel like that's going to be like Marmite. Either you're going to feel absolutely helpless and stupid, or you're absolutely going to love it because you're not a hindrance to the rest of the team, really.
Right. I mean, you can get downed.
Yeah. But
you could die.
You know what I mean. You understand what I'm saying.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
You can float around the world as well, to be fair. Like, you can probably stay away from more enemies more than often. I've not played as Jack, so I don't actually know. But that's just what I think.
Right.
Yeah, for me, Gears of War is a great game. It is probably... This might be Xbox first parties... I feel like it's different because they've renamed it and they've rebranded it and everything. It's all new, yeah? Like, Xbox now has studios for once, which is crazy. This is obviously their top tier game so far that's come out of it.
Yeah.
It's a phenomenal game. I think it's a great jumping in point for Gears of War fans, strictly because of the previously in Gears of War. Without that, it wasn't. But with that, it is like, all right, nobody cared about 4. We cared. The hardcore fans cared about 4, but from a mass level, nobody cared about 4. So here we go. This is where you can start. This is where you can learn about these characters, and I think it does a great job of bringing in the characters and adding depth to them. It really does a great job of that. Its gameplay is still there. It's weird to think that cover-based shooters have gone. We don't really play cover-based shooters anymore. And to think that Gears of War is still here, it's still a cover-based shooter with...
And it feels good for being a cover-based
with its own style, and it still feels amazing. Exactly. Which is, I think that's the key thing.
I think the issue was a lot of cover-based shooters started feeling very clunky.
Yeah.
Like, when you got in cover, you always felt attached to the cover. Yeah. Whereas with Gears of War, you always had, like, the freedom to get on and off the cover and whatever. It always felt very fluid.
Some people will definitely disagree with you. But, yeah, I agree. I agree with you because I know how to play the game, where I feel like a lot of people who don't know how to play Gears of War play Gears wrong. Which...
Yeah.
Are you ever wrong if you're having fun, Crash? Yes, you're still wrong.
But they're not having fun.
True.
If they're playing wrong, they're probably not having fun.
True. But yeah, that's okay. There. I've got a few questions here. Starting off. Should people play this game? If you've never played a Gears of War game before, and is this a good place for people to start off?
If you have the means to play it, you have a PC that can play it, and you have a Xbox, yes. I think this is a great point to start off.
I agree with you. I think this is a perfect place to start. When we were talking about it before, and was like, you have to play 4, you have to play 4, you have to play 4. I now take that back because of what they did with the previously. It's like, no, you can jump in at 5 and you'll be absolutely fine.
When you rewatch that, you also realize stuff happened in 4,
Nothing
but
happened.
not too much.
Nothing happened.
4. The big thing that happened in 4 is the ending.
Yes.
Right. And there's a few other key parts which the previously on sort of covers and goes over.
Yeah, I agree. Why should people play this game? For me, I think it's a case of, especially if you own an Xbox, you're doing yourself a disservice to not play this game. Especially, a lot of people are like, I don't want to play its campaign. Its campaign is that good, and it's that different to anything that's out there, that I think you are doing yourself a disservice if you don't play Gears of War 5.
At least try it. If it's not for you, at the end of the day, it's not for you.
Exactly, but I'm talking strictly from a graphical point of view. It's probably one of the best graphical games I've played, bar none.
The lighting. I think I mentioned this the last time we talked about it. The lighting in that game is by far probably the best lighting we have in any game to date.
On Xbox, I think it's probably one of the strongest stories they have currently going in any of their franchises. Which, that's not saying much, I'll be honest, when it comes to Xbox stories, but that's just the facts. It is the strongest story out there if you own an Xbox, and it's one of those AAA titles, like you said at the start. It's a AAA game, and it's built that way. It's beautiful. It plays well. It feels good. There you go. And obviously, I've got here: is it worth its cost? And I think this is where it's an interesting question, right? Because I played it on Game Pass, which. Yeah. For me, for what I paid for Game Pass, this game is a steal. The pure fact I didn't have to pay £50 for it, $60, £50, I should say, to me is still mind-boggling. It's still crazy to me. Whenever it happens, it's like I was thinking about the Outer Worlds the other day. I'm like, that's going to be in Game Pass, and that's so weird to think that I've still got my Game Pass is up until 2020. Which, let me tell you, I regret giving you guys. Do you remember when I was giving away all that Game Pass like it was candy? I regret it. So I had like 4 years of Game Pass. 4 years, and I just like,
you would have been set.
Everybody have Game Pass. What was I thinking? Idiot. I gave Haley 6 months of it, and she then, just idiot.
She didn't play anything.
Idiot. Nothing. Idiot. Really annoying. But if you bought this, I still think it was worth its money.
$60,
and I think you're still going to get more from it as well if you want to.
Yeah, it's also like it's 4 different game modes that seem fleshed out to a degree, right?
Yes.
The Horde seems set up, the escape, the multiplayer, the campaign. The campaign, like, this is all you'll get out of it.
Yeah.
But the other 3 modes will continue to grow and add more, especially with the map editors coming in for Versus and Escape.
Yeah.
I assume it'll be there for Horde as well if it's there for Versus.
You would assume so, but who knows?
Yeah. So. Yeah, absolutely. I think it's absolutely worth the $60.
It's definitely worth $60, and it's definitely worth $2 if that's how you bought it and played it.
$15 in the future if you want to get Game Pass for this game down the line. I think it's worth it.
Cool. Crash, score it. No, Crash. I don't want your 7.9s or your.
I know.
Your this.
I know.
No. I've written the scores here. Number 1.
I saw.
This is where it is. This is how it goes down. Number 1.
All right.
It's a bad game. Don't buy it.
Okay.
Number 2. It's okay. It has problems, but it's playable. Number 3, solid game, played it, enjoyed it, now I'm done with it. Okay. Number 4, it plays well, tells a story I care about. Number 5, no game is perfect, but this is almost that. Those are your options.
I'm tied between 2 of those options. Between 4 and 5.
Oh, wow, okay. Interesting.
So it's up there for me. I think I'll give it a 4, and the only reason being Act 3 in the campaign.
We'll get into that.
I just, my reasoning.
Yeah, okay.
I'm not going to get into it, but the reasoning would be Act 3.
Okay.
But I think it's really close to a 5 for me.
Okay. Fair enough.
The way you've set it up here, right?
Look, that's what this is. That's what this is. That is what this is. This is, will this change when we do the next game? 100%. Will I put something even dumber than what I've put here? More than likely. But that's what my Xbox and me is. For me, it's definitely a 4. It plays well. It's a story I cared about. And if I was even to elaborate on that, I will go back to it. I can definitely see, I've already said to you, Haley wants to play it again, I want to play it again, we can do it 3-player on Insane, and hopefully go for that achievement. Like, I can see myself doing it again. So
Right.
I think that's testament to how good the game is.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. That is it for spoiler-free talk, Crash. That is it. Now,
Yeah,
how do
no
you want to do
more,
this? So, do you want to do it my way, which is I've set out some questions? Well, we'll start from that, or would you like to take it by act basis?
Hmm. I think.
Because we can get the big
Ooh.
hitters out of the way if you want, and then break it down even more so.
I think we leave the big hitters at the end.
Okay, cool.
Go through like the story, and maybe that changes how we feel about the big hitters and opinions or
Okay.
whatever.
Yeah.
Once we're like revisiting everything.
Yeah. Okay, cool. We can start. Do you want to take it, or do you want me to host? I don't care either way.
Let's have you host.
Alright, cool, fine. So Gears of War starts with its Act 1, introduces a great character, in my opinion, in Fuzz. We learn how Anya died. JD is pretty much JD about things in this act.
Yeah, JD is kind of like a drastically different character than he was in Gears 4.
It's very interesting to see how different he is, like you just said, but there's reasons for it, I think that's the important part, right? It would have been jarring if it was, here's JD, do you know who he is? He's Marcus's son, he's living in Marcus's son's shell, he does dumb stuff because of it, I feel like, anyway. Maybe I'm reading between the lines with that one. And then you have this JD, which is, he's done something bad, and he's made a huge mistake, and he has to pay for that mistake, and that's why his character acts certain ways. He's sort of in that crossroads between his friends and what he feels is right for the world.
Yeah.
And that on its own is actually interesting for the character. Which is funny because you said something which we'll get into later, which is like about certain characters and their stories and how growth works. And it's like, once I thought about it, I was like, you're actually right. But we'll get into that very soon. Yeah.
Just on JD, there's only one thing that I kind of dislike they did with the story, is what happened with Section 12 and the whole where they were having a riot and the COG just like openly opened fire, and Dell was the only one that did it. It doesn't make sense for JD to have left as well,
but it's
because he's the one who ordered it.
Yeah, but I think that's because he's for me, he's in that crossroads there, which is a case of, oh, I'm gonna leave because I'm gonna be with my friends. Like I know, and you got to remember that's a secret. He doesn't. Only one person knows that, which is Fuzz.
Right.
Fuzz is the only person who knows who set the order. It wasn't a case of other people started doing it and then JD joined in. JD was the reason it happened. So and we don't learn that until a little bit later on, but it's interesting to see how the character then develops because of it.
Absolutely. But going back to Gears 4 just made the JD in Gears 4 feel very disingenuous.
Yeah, it is a total tonal shift, isn't it? Where it's like,
which I'm fine with. I think it works a lot better in Gears 5. But it just makes, retrospectively, it makes it a little bit weird.
Yeah, if you went back and played Gears of War 4 now, you'd be like, oh, this is a totally different character.
Because he doesn't seem bothered about leaving, where you feel like because he made that decision, there would be more of a tug and pull inside of him, so to say.
That's true. That's something they could have definitely hammed up a bit more, which is like, I'm going because of you guys, like, but this is hard for me, which they never do. What do you think of Fuzz as a character? Obviously, voiced by Rahul Kohli. He plays a typical British guy. I'll be honest with you. Yeah. And for me, we've been talking about voice acting a lot lately, and British voice acting, where I'm like, it's so annoying because they get a voice actor that's literally nothing like British people. It's just, tea and crumpets, and it's just stupid, dumb stuff that they play up with. We've all got bad teeth. Yes, I happen to have bad teeth, but that's not the point, okay? All right, get off my case, mom.
Right.
But, but it was nice to have a character here, which is like, he's a lad. Which is
he feels real.
He is literally what you would get down the pub, which is pure banter, pure laddish. He's just constantly giving it to you. That's a typical British lad. That's what Fuzz is.
Yeah, to be fair, like Act 1 in the beginning of the game, wasn't a fan of Fuzz. By the time we get to 3, we learn more about his backstory, and it makes more sense why he acts the way he does.
It's designed that way on purpose, though, right? His character, which is
absolutely.
I'm a douchebag for. But again, this is, I think maybe because I'm British, I get it. There are so many. I very rarely associate myself with those people anymore. Which is, they're not bad people. They're really not. but they're strictly, it's banter, and it's taking the mickey out of each other, and that is who he is, and he wants to tussle with JD straight away at the beginning. There is like, I'll knock you out, whatever. But that is him as a person, so it's interesting. It's not that he's a bad person, though.
Absolutely, but it's the backstory he gets about. They explain in Act 3. We want to just talk about
we can talk about it, and then we'll go over it again when we get there again, I'm sure. But
okay. Yeah. So he's from, what's the place called that we visit?
I don't know the exact name of it, but he's from one of the towns that we actually go and visit.
His parents are from there, yeah. And so when they move over to Sarah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, names of places we're not great with.
No, we know that, but
his family moves over, and so he's growing up in a completely different culture and a surrounding that he's not used to.
Yes.
And so to me, like, that very like tough bravado, like all that stuff is sort of him trying to make it seem like he's worth it and he's up to par with everybody around him. Exactly. Yeah. And the writing in this game overall, that Kate, JD, Dell, all the writing for all the characters in the story feels like it was a big step up from Gears 4.
Yeah, I agree. But him as a character, though, I was like I agree with you. I was like, don't like him, but I'm not meant to like him, so he's doing his job.
Yeah.
So that was.
Do you ever change your opinion on that?
What, towards the end of the game? Because he has that at the end of the game. By the end of it, I understand who he is. I still think he's a pain in the ass and a douchebag, but like I say, absolutely. I understand who he is as a person.
His character makes sense at that point.
And it makes sense.
Not just, like,
exactly. It's
not just thrust into your face.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. We got some big news, obviously, in this act, which was how Anya died, which is something I wasn't actually expecting. I kind of thought that she was going to be. The one thing this game doesn't do, it never talks about Dom. There's no talk about Dom at all. Like, I was expecting there to be a Dom moment with Marcus where maybe he's looking at a picture, and I know this is not Marcus's story, so it makes no sense to talk about Dom, but I still expected something, and it's like, no, that's not what this is. So when I got the Anya part, I'm like, this is actually kind of interesting. I did wonder what actually happened. So to have that be fleshed out and explained, it's like, oh, okay, that's really cool. It makes sense, and it's a throwback to Gears of War 4 as well, because you go through the baby unit, which I'm not explaining it very well. Anya died giving birth to JD, correct? That's how it happened.
Yeah.
She was.
We don't know that in 4.
No, you don't know that in 4, but you do go through the baby units in 4, and you don't know why you're going through there or why it's there. It's like, this seems like a lot of work just to give birth. Not that giving birth's not a hard thing to do, don't get me wrong, but it can be done without the amount of stuff that's been built up in this world. In 4, which we, again, if you played 4, you understand that a bit more. So yeah, it was really interesting. So she does the test subject of the second child, because she puts herself up, not for, I said JD, I didn't mean JD. It's for the second child that she goes for, right? She's the test subject. Someone had to be the test subject of this new thing they were developing, and she passes away because of it. So
no, it was because of JD.
Oh, it was because of JD.
Yeah. So she gives birth to JD through this program, and then she passes away.
Oh yeah, because Jin says you wouldn't have your son otherwise. Yeah. So you're right.
And so that also adds. It makes so much sense that they focused on Anya as opposed to Dom, even to your point before, just because it adds to the current story they're telling with JD.
Exactly.
It adds that tension, and it makes sense why, like, JD gets mad whenever Marcus says anything, because to JD it's like, oh, you're just mad at me because Anya died because I was born.
Yeah.
Essentially. So.
Yeah. But that was something I wasn't expecting to get, but once we got it, I was like, oh, it's actually really cool. It makes a lot of sense. Yeah. A lot of sense. Next up, obviously, enemies are introduced. We shoot some enemies. Cool, whatever. It's what's the new enemy type? There's a lot of new enemy types in this game.
There's the Flock.
Yep.
There is the Warden, which we don't see until Act 2.
Yep.
Which is probably my favorite new enemy in the game.
Okay.
And then there's also I forget the name of it, but you meet it in the theater.
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Which is probably my favorite introduction. It's like a boss fight.
Yeah, we'll get to that. That's the next act though, right?
No, it's this act.
Oh, was that in this act?
Yeah.
Oh,
This act was pretty long, to be honest.
Yeah, it was.
It had a lot of stuff to it.
Yeah, that boss fight is actually really cool and really fun. The music starts playing, it goes around on like a spinning wheel, and you're fighting and shoot. It's like totally different from what I was like. You go into that moment, like, okay, it's gonna be a boss fight, I get that. But then they sort of switch it up on you. There's a lot to it as well that I didn't know. Like, I was listening to Tim talk about it on Kind of Funny Games Daily, and I'm mixed race, but I don't think I'm very in tune with my black side, unfortunately, because I was brought up by my mum that's white, and my dad was around, but not always around me all of the time like my mum was. So apparently that's Hamilton, and like there's a twist on it, and there's something to do with like there's a whole thing.
It's a reference
about
to
it.
Hamilton.
Yeah, and I'm like, oh, I didn't know that at all. I didn't know that was a thing at all. So just experiencing that, I thought it was really cool. Then you hear about the in-depthness of what it actually is. You're like, oh, that's actually really cool. Nah. Yeah. So yeah, that was really, really cool. And then the next up, which is a key component to the story, about what happens in this whole story, which is the Hammer of Dawn, which I never really thought about it in 4, the Hammer of Dawn. I'm like, oh, I didn't think, oh, why haven't they got it or anything like that. It was just a case of like, it's not in this game. The Correlation have done something different. They didn't want to give it to us. Yeah, cool, boom.
Yeah.
Out of mind. And then really the whole story, as much as not the whole story, but a big part of the story is about the Hammer of Dawn. And for me, it's like, if you've just played this game, you don't understand that. You don't understand what the Hammer of Dawn is. You don't understand the need or the importance of this weapon in this world. But they do a great job of explaining it for new people and for old people, which I thought was really fun.
The positives and the negatives of the Hammer of Dawn and why you might not want to bring it back.
It's a silly state. It's silly, but it's like, with great power comes great responsibility. Yes, we have this weapon that is amazing and can destroy practically anything and is so powerful, but which I don't know if they meant to do this or if it was just something I had pulled up in my head, but you can kill yourself with it. I've done it plenty of times. If it's not in the right hands, if you don't think about how you're using it, you're actually destroying this world. And I thought that was actually really cool, because it could have been just a gamified moment where it's, here's the Hammer of Dawn,
just to
kill, boom, done. But it was like, no, when you're using this weapon, and by the end of the game, you really see the damage that has been done to this world that you're in, and what has been left. And don't get me wrong, the Swarm, the Locust, everyone plays a part in that. But you yourself as the character, you did that. You used these weapons and you damaged this world just as much as they did, which is really interesting, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I never, like you said, I never really thought it would be that important, especially to the story at this point. And they're like, oh, we have to get it back online and all this stuff. And then at the end of the first part, you find out, oh, this is kind of like a rogue mission.
Yeah,
you aren't technically being sent to do this.
No. And
that Jin's actually like really, really
against
angry
it.
At you guys.
Yeah, she's totally against it. She doesn't want you to do it. She doesn't feel the need for it. She doesn't get it, which is really cool, because that's your leader. Your leader's saying to you no, and then like you're going off and like Bird's like, yeah, no, she don't know I'm here, and you better not. Like even that start cutscene which we saw at E3, which is like, no, you don't go, Marcus, let me go. Adele saying, because she'll notice if you're missing. It's like those little things that just totally keep adding upon this story in this world.
It's also a really clever way of like, the person in charge doesn't necessarily understand the might of the enemy if you're not on the front line.
Exactly.
And Jin is strictly like an office person. She's not a frontline soldier. So her point in like, oh, we don't need the Hammer of Dawn is because in her mind, it's like, oh, we'll just send DBs and all this stuff. Where it's like,
go on.
You see, even especially later on in the story, like the DBs can be corrupted. It's like, that's not even a safe route.
No.
And it's like, you see people dying regardless of whether the Hammer of Dawn's being used or not.
Exactly. I totally agree. So that's sort of where you end Act 1, though. You try and get the Hammer of Dawn back on.
Clayton dies.
Yeah, Clayton dies, and
not Clayton, Carmine. What's her name? Leslie Carmine. You get introduced to her in a really nice opening.
And then she.
I'll
be honest with you, I didn't really care.
I cared. I liked her. I liked her as soon as I saw her, and then she died. I was like, oh, that's typical, like, typical Carmine.
Yeah, for me, it was just a case of, that was, no, I understood it. It was a cool reference of like, oh, another Carmine died. All right, cool.
But she also had that heart-to-heart moment with Clayton as well.
Yes.
Where, like, she sees Clayton and they're hugging and everything. It's like, oh,
take care
cool.
of my cousin.
Yeah. No, and then she's stuck in the vehicle, and you don't know, maybe she made it out, because they don't actually show her die.
No.
And in my mind, if I don't see the character die, they're not dead.
This is not Walking Dead, mate. Come on. I know that's like a Walking Dead staple.
I liked her. I just wanted her to live, man.
She's dead.
She's dead. You find that out really early on in the next act. So,
but again, it comes back to that character development as well with JD again, where he has to wrestle with that, because he's the reason.
That's on him.
That he's the reason those people died. Are dead now because of him.
And his arm at that point becomes a constant reminder of that, because he has the messed up arm now.
He does. That's something they never really explain it.
Yeah,
I think
that was one of my points later on.
Yeah,
is like that they don't talk about it, they don't elaborate on it. It's just sort of there. My guess would be like in the early stages, they sort of planned the character, they planned a sort of arc with him.
Yeah,
but you also have to remember they switched gears from Gears 4.
Yeah,
pun not intended.
Gears
intended. 4, JD was the main protagonist, and then in Gears 5, it's Kate, because they realized there's more you can do with Kate as a character as opposed to.
I think people we're in that climate right now where people want strong female protagonists as well, and not only that, it made sense for the. I'm not saying that's the reason they did it. But I'm saying it's another reason to do it, which is people are clamoring for those characters, and it makes more sense for the story to have that character be the main character now. Do you think it started like that, or do you think it was another JD story?
No, I think it started like that.
So you think it started with Kate always in mind to be the main character? It
started with Kate, but I'm assuming like some point after Gears 4, they had like a arc they wanted to do with JD, and that might have been a part of it, is what I'm assuming, where they wanted to take the character and whatnot.
Got
you. And maybe not. If that's not the case, then I don't understand why that necessarily happens.
The whole arm thing was like, it gets talked about. It doesn't even get talked about. It's just like he goes to touch her, he goes, oh, and then he pushes a button, and that's it. Like, we don't hear anything more about it. That's it. Like, literally, it's just, I get what you're saying. It's like, maybe it's more subtle, which is like it's a constant reminder of what has happened for him. But for the player, I don't think there's any real payoff for it.
Yeah.
So yeah. Moving on, we go into Act 2, which you really liked Act 2, right?
Yes.
And I liked Act 2, but unfortunately, I played this fully co-op with my fiance Haley. Some of you know, some of you don't. You played it fully co-op with Ben, which Ben has been on E3 pre-shows and stuff like that before, so you definitely probably heard his voice if you listened to the show long enough. I played as Dell throughout the whole campaign, and you played as Kate throughout the whole campaign, correct?
Yeah.
And I'm lucky that I'm sitting where I'm sitting currently, and the TV Haley's playing on is literally next to me. So I could glance over every now and then during this act and be like, oh, she's seeing things. There's things that are happening to Kate during this whole story, which if you play as the second player, you don't even know. And unfortunately for me, that's what happened. So I got and you don't agree, but I think I got a way lesser experience in Gears of War 5 than whoever plays the first player. And I think that's something that I think they had the right intentions for what they were doing, but I think they missed the mark with this one. Because when you're Dell, you're not getting anything there. You don't really get there's nothing added there at all. It's just like Kate's standing around going, oh, my head. I'm lucky I glanced over and knew there was something else going on, which I've still not seen those moments. So I felt like, and this is what I said to her, it's like, I said to her, can we swap halfway through? And she's like, no, I want to see the rest of it. I want to see how it plays out. And she's like, I'm glad that I played it first, like she said, because I would have felt like I got a lesser experience. And that's how I think playing the whole game as Dell. Whereas, like, I've got such a lesser experience for no reason, just because I decided to play it co-op. That seems very unfair.
I get that, except I feel like it builds that co-op experience in a sense, because you are having that conversation of, oh, what's going on? What's happening between two characters? Which is kind of what they were going for.
I agree, but it's not fleshed out enough. Like, if there needed to be some, then you've not played as Dell, there needed to be more then for Dell. There needed to be more that he was wrestling with. He needed his own conflictions then. If they're like, she's got hers, he needed something else then. Like, at that moment when they're trying to tell that story of what's going on with Kate, Dell needs something, because it is just a case of she jumps down too early, or she doesn't get picked up quick enough, and it's just like you're sort of just waiting. Like, there's nothing happening, which I think then waters down the experience for me.
Okay.
But that's just my opinion. That's all this is.
I haven't played as Dell, to be fair. So.
Yeah. Wait, don't get me wrong. From a overall perspective, I think it doesn't really damage it too much. But those little gritty moments, which is like, I don't know. I still sitting here today talking about this game now. If I just reviewed it from this one point of view, like, which lucky I've got your point of view. If I was doing it on my own, I wouldn't know any of that even happened.
That's fair.
So, yeah, interesting. But Act 2, Oscar dies, and Kate connects to the Swarm, which, this was a big moment, and this is one of those moments that you don't, as the second player, you don't know is happening. Yeah. If I was playing this without playing with Haley, it's like, Haley's like, oh, I'm controlling them, and I'm doing this, and and I'm like, what? What are you talking about? And she's like, I'm still shooting you. You're like, yeah, you're shooting at me. And I'm like,
yeah.
Oh, okay. And I'm sure that's a super cool moment. I bet as playing that's a super cool moment. It's like you have a real connection there. But I didn't get that. So I have none of that connection.
Right.
So how was it for you?
Okay. It was very fun. So I got to control one of the swarms, and I was trying to kill Ben, I'm gonna be honest.
There you go.
That's what I was going for. And Ben knew it was me because I was wall bouncing to him. He's like, the bot does not do that, Crush. I know that's you. But yeah, I think that's a really cool moment that I understand where you're coming from. And I think that's the biggest argument. That would be the biggest argument for where you're coming from, is that you miss out on that one spot.
I don't think it's just that one spot though.
I get it, but I'm just saying, like, that would
be
the biggest argument.
I think that's the biggest spot, but it's not the only spot where things happen. So, yeah.
Question: what if Kate was more open about what she saw? Because Kate kind of ignores.
No, I don't think she should, because it makes sense for her character to not be open about it. But I feel like they needed with that moment, yeah, that exact moment with Dell and Kate, and the way the gameplay plays is really cool, because it's a case of you're practically fighting your friend, which I think that's cool, and it makes sense in the story that there is something for Dell to do. He's dealing with something. Where the other moments which I'm talking about, there's nothing. Dell's not struggling with anything.
So how would you fix that? Both people see the cutscene?
No, well, this is my point. I think it's either a case of it has to be both people see what Kate's seeing to tell a full story, which I don't think makes sense. It wouldn't make sense for the second player to know what's going on in their head, but it is still a video game. Or to give Dell a moment of happiness, a moment of sadness, a moment of confusion to it. Like, there needed to be more to it for me. Where if it's like, Kate, because literally all it is a case of, Kate, are you okay? What's wrong? And it's like, Haley got her whole screen go bloody red, and I don't know what else happened. Again, I'll say it's like I always do, Crash. I'm the critic, not the game maker. So I don't know. I don't know what I would do, but I would have had him at that moment. There's a moment of silence. Kate's gone off, because you don't usually see her. Like, he pulls out a picture of him and a lost relative, him and a lost partner, him and a lost child. Give that character more depth. And, like, do you understand what I'm trying to say? Like, if you're going to have me do nothing, it wouldn't necessarily make perfect sense. Because we're meant to be on the go, and then these moments are happening to Kate. I understand that. But he needed something.
Okay.
Or make it more of a case of, like, Kate's like, yo, just give me a minute. Like, and then that moment happens. And it's like, okay, cool. That then opens the window for Kate then for Dell then to be able to go, this happened, and do something, or something happened. So that there's a separation. Yeah. And don't get me wrong, I don't feel like the moments were ever too long. Or too often. Short. They're pretty short. But it still left a bad taste in my mouth as the second player. So... yeah.
And Act 2 is the only time this happens. It doesn't happen at all in Act 3, I don't think.
See, I wouldn't know. I don't know. You got to play it, I didn't.
I don't remember it happening at all in Act 3. Act 4 doesn't happen. But Kate has something else to do in Act 4, which we'll talk about later.
which we will talk about in very, very soon. For anyone who is listening to watching this live, hello in chat. I know that there's some people jumping in. We're recording this, so I won't be talking to you too much, just so you're aware. And we might open up at the end with some questions. This is where we got the open world / side quests, which have been to both of us.
Yeah.
Both of us, we have different opinions on this.
Yeah.
You very much like the side quests, so why? What makes you like the open worldness and side quests of this game?
I think it adds more to the world itself, more to the world of Sarah and the world this game takes place. You see side character storylines, the people with the outsiders that left the outsiders, and they're off doing their own thing.
Yep.
And they're you find out slowly, little by little, oh, they died off, and then the last guy gets turned into a swarm.
Yep.
I just think it adds a fresh of breath of air to the normal, typical Gears of War story, which is all very military.
Okay. So you think it... I don't disagree with you. In your points, you're 100% right. Yeah, which it does add so much more depth to its story, to its characters, to its world. It makes it more a living, breathing world, and it's not just a bunch of juiced up people wearing COG armor. It becomes, at those moments, it becomes more than that. But the problem with me is I just felt like it was a case of fancying up the reasons to go get the parts for Jack, which we haven't even spoken about Jack. I think Jack in this game is a phenomenal addition to the cast.
Yeah. Agreed.
He reminds me of a R2-D2. I'm not a Star Wars fan, but he does remind me of that type of character where it's like, it's subtle but important, and the way they add it to gameplay is fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, I would have loved to have played it free player. I really would have seen, without me having to do the stem packs
because
and
it felt like
zaps.
Jack wasn't constantly a thing. It's whenever I remembered, I have Jack.
Exactly.
Zap, the freeze, the whatever have you.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll talk about Jack a little bit later.
Yeah, definitely. I loved what they did and they built out. See you later. What they built out of the world, of what they were doing. So it's I get it. I get why you loved it. I couldn't. I think my old Gears head was on, which was I wanted more of a centered story. I didn't want the side stuff. I wanted it to still be as long as it was with the side stuff,
right.
But I wanted all of the side stuff to either be
tied into the main story,
maybe,
or
you
I
think
think
it may have been
in a linear path.
Maybe it needs to be more compact. I didn't like the fact it was here, and here. If it was just all done in a big zone, which made it wouldn't have made sense, because it was like, why would it be that open then? But for me, it was just a case of, and maybe, in the same breath, maybe it was a case of the server issues, which really ruined it for me. Because once that was happening, I was just like, oh, whatever, what's the point? I'm done with this. You had that, you had... it weren't just server issues, but it was that, and then a few other bits. The spoiler, obviously, I got the ending spoiled for me, which super demotivated me to play the rest of this game. That's the total honest truth of it, which sucks, but that was just the case. So yeah, it's an interesting one, but it was one of those ones where I'm like, I could have done without it. I'm not annoyed the fact that it's in it, but I could have done without it. But I think it is good to see the evolution of Gears go from what it was to what it is now. And does that mean I dislike it? No. But if it's set out the same way in Gears 6, I don't think I necessarily need to go and do the side stuff then, because it adds very little for me.
Right. I was thinking about it, and I don't know how they'll add it in Gears 6, because in Gears 5 it was done. They did it purposefully because they went to a sand map and a snow map, because that's where the vehicle works in those type of maps. So I don't know necessarily where we would go that type of exploration. Maybe in Gears 6 they're like, okay, this time we're gonna have you exploring a city, and you'll go walking around.
Motorcycle.
Or something along those lines.
Yeah. What did you think of the skiv itself? I actually thought it played really well and controlled really well.
Oh, yeah. It controlled very, very good. The person sitting in the cockpit, not the one driving it, absolutely, like...
Why was there a mounted gun on it?
It wasn't a mounted gun.
Oh.
It was so you could view, and you could, like, if you hover onto a place and it's actually somewhere you can go, a name pops up. And it's like, oh, we have to head there.
Okay, I drove most of the time, so I didn't really do that.
So it wasn't that bad for me because me and Ben just kept switching.
Got you.
And whatever. So it'd be like, okay, I'm gonna drive for a little bit, then you're gonna drive for a little bit.
Okay, yeah. See, Haley wasn't really into the driving. Like, she's like, oh, you just do it. It's easier. So she just constantly had the map up while that was happening. And I said to her, take the map down. You're missing some of this great, like the great moments of the world of like when you're driving past it, the weather, you take the map down. You're missing it. You're missing it
and everything.
And she's just like, oh yeah, no, but we got to go over this way. And like she'll mark it, and then she's like, no, you're going the wrong way. Like she'll just have the map. I'm like, no, like so. I think that can probably be. Give the second player, again, in that case, give the second player something to do. So give us some enemies to shoot or make that a bit more obvious with the pointing and clicking where you want it to go. Because to me, I didn't even
I don't think I would want enemies to shoot in that.
No, I don't.
Because that, to me, is a lull between the combat periods, right?
I agree. I totally agree with you. But
just
you need something.
You need something.
Yeah,
I agree.
Whether I don't know what they could do, but just it needed something for me. So, yeah. Where are we at? Relic weapons, which was there was a few. Like I got a relic boom shot.
Boom shots, long shots. I think almost every weapon had a relic version.
Oh, okay.
Not every weapon, but I didn't get most of the relic weapons. I just thought they were really cool additions to the game. That sort of changed how some of the weapons worked.
Yeah, but they were just I only had it once or twice. So once you've lost it, it's done. Like that moment's finished.
You could put it on the skid. And then when you go from the
is that what it was used
2
for?
to 3, yeah. If you go to it also recovers ammo on the skid, and they don't explain it too well. I didn't know
that.
And then when you go from Act 2 to Act 3, you get it back.
I didn't know that. We were literally
whatever
just
weapons
putting
on the skid are still there.
We were literally just putting on like the salvo or the what's the turret gun called?
The mulcher.
The mulcher,
which you probably barely used.
No, I did. I used that a lot.
Did you?
Yeah. We grabbed all those big guns. We used those a lot. We used them a lot. So yeah, but that was relatively cool. Then we go into the next point of the game, which is the frozen laboratory, which they have their version of the Captain America.
Yes.
Their
which
robot.
I thought was kind of funny.
Yeah,
I don't think that was purposeful, but like it kind of makes sense. The guy was like a mad scientist, so it makes sense.
It made sense, but I was just a bit like, okay, really? The part where you're like chasing the robot down, and I was just like, really? We wouldn't have missed that shot, like, or you would have threw a nade there, like, it weren't getting away that quickly, really, and like you are chasing it for a fair bit at that point. But yeah,
which I was fine with because you start getting reintroduced to the locusts in that part.
Yeah, but again,
and that was very.
That's something I think they do really well in this game, which is even with the side quest, which I've critiqued, but the part where they show the corrupt robots, and it's like, or I don't know what if I can remember the exact thing, but I really enjoyed it where it was like, oh, they're not connected. I think it said they weren't connected to the server.
It's where you fight the helicopter.
Where you fight the helicopter, something like that. We're not in control of these ones. That's why they're
main server.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's why they're attacking us.
Mission they had last is whatever they're with right now.
Yeah.
And you two are enemies of the state or the army.
And I thought that was really cool. I thought that was actually really well done and really, it was just, I don't know, it just really added something for me personally, that moment. And then the same thing happened in the laboratory when you're fighting the swarm. It's like they've been frozen over. The locust, sorry. They've been frozen over, and and it's subtle. Like if you don't care about lore, you don't understand that these are different enemy types. Really,
these can reproduce. The locust can reproduce. The swarm can.
Exactly.
That's why the swarm abduct people.
Which they explain all that they go more in depth in it and everything. So it was. I thought that whole moment was actually really cool. Going through, kicking through the frozen people and just absolutely killing them. I said that Haley was trying to do it first of all. So I've been trying to kill these people. I feel really bad because their bodies are just going to disappear. And so I was like, I tried to do it like 10 times, not working. And then there is a moment that you can, and I was just walking through like, and just watching their bodies just disintegrate. I'm like, oh. Damn, that was a human being.
People with the pipe. I like running at people with the pipe.
Yeah, the pipe was cool.
It gave it more of like a survival element right there, where it's like grab whatever you can to like defend yourself and everything.
Yeah.
That whole lab part, I thought when I was playing through, I was like, Fix is probably gonna really like the lab part just because of like the survival.
Like Resident Evil.
It has. Yeah. Which I really liked. I think that Act 2 does a really good job of bringing back like that horror aspect.
Darker.
I guess.
It's darker. It's darker.
Yeah, which we lose in Act 3, and Act 3 becomes more of like a run and gun type thing.
Yeah, definitely. We get introduced to a couple new characters here, which is the Queen Maya.
We find out about her past, Queen Mira.
Yeah, Mira. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, you find out that you find out all of the information. You find out that she was a queen, and you find
lab
out
experiment. She had a child, and somebody ran away with the child, and that leaves one of probably the big questions of this game, which is who is the father?
Yeah,
who is Reyna's father and Kate's grandfather?
Yeah,
which the going theory right now is that it's Adam Phoenix, Marcus's father.
Yeah, but do you not think Bird looks like Adam Phoenix?
Yes, in the game, Baird looks like Adam Phoenix.
I'm like, why did they just remake? Why is Adam here? And that's literally what I thought. I was like, why have they made him bald and look like Adam? I'm like, and a scientist, and I was like, huh, this is weird.
It makes sense. Baird was always like an engineer and everything,
and
that makes sense.
Yeah,
and he's getting old, so he's going bald. That all makes sense.
But I was like, yo, why does Bird look like Adam? Which he looked like him in the last game, but I thought I don't know, it just seemed a bit weird.
Yeah.
I think that's too obvious though, isn't it? For it to be it's too easy. I would much rather it be something different. But they have to bring it back in somehow.
But the question would be, what can they do to bring it back to like the story? And maybe there's something like in the comic books or the books that they can actually do and pull from that. But the question is, do they want it to relate to people who only play the games or people who are hardcore fans of the overall franchise? Right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I loved the frozen laboratory part, and that to me is that part between that and Act 4 is like tied for the height of the game for me. I think I'd call this the height for the game for me, like the highest point where I enjoyed it the most.
I think you get a lot of emotion in the laboratory as well. The gameplay is brilliant, I think, and it brings back some old enemy types, which is always fun. But then the moment that you find out that she's queen, and like the moment they put her in the machine, and that whole moment, it's like there's a lot going on, and there's a lot of emotion. There's a lot of the performance in those parts are really good.
Mm-hmm.
So
agreed. You have a return to an old enemy type, the Berserk, which
which is a big fight.
Matriarch. Yeah, a boss fight, and that part is kind of.
I liked it. I think the boss fights in this game are probably the weakest part of it, personally, for me. They're not bad. Again, the game's not bad, so what I'm critiquing here is so small things. But it was a case of, it's not a normal Berserker, because normal Berserker used the Hammer of Dawn on. So it was cool they've added that part where you shoot in the back. But for me, it was just a bit like, oh, okay, cool. And it's in that ice part, and it was fine. It was fine. It wasn't amazing for me.
Yeah, I like the very last boss fight. I think that's the only one that I was really into.
Even that one, but we'll get to that. If I missed anything in Act 2,
Return of the Locust. A small thing: the frags and the lancers you pick up in the area are older lancers.
Retro.
They're older models.
Yeah.
The retro.
They're retro. I'm pretty sure they're the retro ones.
Is it only retro lancers there?
I think there was other ones as well, but they are older models.
No, it makes sense story-wise for it to be retro lancers. Yeah.
It's just just that world building again. It's just it adds.
It's the little stuff that they do in that area that just really adds to it.
So then we move on to Act 3, which for you think it's the weakest part of the game. You didn't like it, correct?
Yes.
So
there are bits I like of it, but overall I'm just not a fan because I don't think it does a lot for the world, in my opinion. Where Act 2 does a lot for the story and the world and all that stuff. I think Act 3 doesn't do much. We get introduced to Paddock, who's from Judgment.
Yeah.
And you get to know him, and I think he's a good character. He's fun, he's interesting. And then you get to know Faz a lot more during this part.
Yeah, so I think this is definitely Faz's strong moment where you're learning about who he actually is as a person. He's not just a douchebag. JD is repenting for what he has done. And
he keeps saying, I'm sorry, I'm here to help you. And me personally, when I'm playing through this part, I'm like, you're gonna backstab me at some point. I don't like this.
Yeah, I think it was more of a case of it was that power play though, wasn't it? It was relinquishing the power to Kate. At that point where he's like, okay, yeah, cool, you're right, you're 100% right. You should be the leader. You're really, and like I remember him saying in the moment where he's like, you're really good at this. Like it's like I'm really good at what? Like leading. You're good at it. It's like, oh yeah, I guess I am good at it. Like, and then she's learning to become a leader, and JD's learning to shut up and just stand in the back.
He shouldn't always be the leader.
Yeah,
because we saw what happened earlier when he was Dawn and everything.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So JD and the gang get reunited. There's a little bit. They just turn up and they're like, oh, crap, we're in trouble sort of thing, and it's like, no, we're just here to help. That's literally, and they do. They're there. That is literally all they do. They're there to help. They take orders, and like I said, we learn a little bit more about these characters. The goal of what we're doing in that part is to relaunch the Hammer of Dawn, because
get the beacon points for when you need to defend the city, which you do in Act 4.
Yeah, which that happens at the last part. So, but you're making your whole journey is to get the Hammer of Dawn online. Get the Hammer of Dawn online. You run into some other characters if you do the side stuff, which again, for me, it's just,
I don't think
it doesn't add
any of the side stuff. Yeah, I don't think any of the side stuff here really adds anything.
Yeah, to me, it doesn't add anything. It was a case of, to me, that was a hindrance, more of a hindrance, where I'm like, oh yeah, I'll help put your water tower on, and I'll help, but I'm not getting anything from this apart from these parts for Jack and collectibles. And the problem was, at that point, for me, was the collectibles weren't registering. So even more so, I'm like, I said to Hayes, like, let's just stop. And she's like, oh no, but I really want them. I'm like, we're gonna have to play it again then, because I don't know what's getting registered, and that's when the game comes in. And whenever that happens, that's a bad moment for games. When I have to think about the game, it being a game, that's not good. But yeah, it was still, I personally still like the act. It was a nice act to see Kate become a strong character. Dell is definitely in this whole game. I like him as a character, but he is definitely a secondary character.
Yeah, like they did a lot better making Dell a likable character in this game. I feel like
he has more personality, but he's secondary.
Yeah, absolutely, he's a background character.
Yeah, which I think
they do an effort to make JD a background character as well to a degree.
Yeah, he's not because he's got that lineage. He's already got that mark. He's Marcus Phoenix's son, like, and he's had a whole game. It's like, I thought we were gonna, until the ending, I thought we were gonna get a JD, a Kate, and a Dell game. I was like, oh damn, next game. Obviously, I like to see strong black characters in gaming. Being a mixed race myself and being able to identify with something is cool and nice. So that's what I was hoping for. But then obviously the ending proves that that's definitely not what this is. This is Kate's story. From here on out, that's what you're getting. Like, you had JD's with introducing Kate. Now this is Kate's story. And thinking about it, we kind of just rushed over Oscar dying. In Act 2. Wait, sorry, we're going back a little bit here, but like, I didn't really think that was a big payoff moment for it.
No,
it was. I actually really liked Oscar in 4, and in this, I was a bit like, oh, okay.
It didn't make. This is another point where like it doesn't make sense for Oscar's transition from the end of 4 to the beginning of 5.
Yeah.
It's just, it feels a little bit out of place, and it's kind of like, okay, cool, Oscar's back, and then literally about like half an hour later, Oscar's dead.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, Kate killed Oscar,
but there's no.
They don't even play up that too much. They don't like.
She doesn't. She's upset for about 10 minutes, and it's like, we gotta carry on with the mission. Come on, like, I just killed my uncle, the only person who is still alive in my family, who loves me and cares about me. Even if I've made these decisions I don't like. Oh, shut up, you. Even if it was decisions he didn't agree with, he didn't disown her. He let her in the gates. He listened to what she had to say.
And it's clearly like he still cares about her and everything.
Yeah, definitely. But
it's like when you're going in, everybody's talking about like, oh, he's gonna kill you if you go and ask him this. He's gonna kill you. He's gonna put your head on a spike, etc., etc. How'd you, going back to that, because we didn't talk about this. How did you like that little town part where you're going around and you're hearing the different conversations?
I liked it. I thought it was done really well. It's one of those things where you could have just rushed all the way through. Like, you could have missed a lot, but it's like, oh, the cog's here, and then like some people, everyone's got their own opinion in that town, which was like, oh, I hate the cog. Well, get out of here, dude. Or like, and then when you help the person do the Steam stuff with Jack.
Yeah.
And it's like, he was like, oh, thank you so much. I still hate you though. Like, that is like that type of vibe in that town. But I thought it was kind of cool, the dialogue that was happening around me. It's like, it felt like a real world, which is cool.
Yeah. Did you get to the tomato guy?
I saw it on Twitter. So I didn't actually, I saw if you throw a nade through the window and blow it up, he like goes on a big rant, right?
So you get there and you stand next to the tomato guy, and he actually like starts singing at one point about his tomatoes.
Oh, I didn't know that. No, I didn't get that.
He really loves his tomatoes, which this is all a throwback to Marcus in Gears 4.
Gears 3.
And then you can Gears 4. Dom is Gears 3.
You're right.
Well, Gears 4 as well.
Technically Gears 3.
Marcus is growing it.
But isn't like when Dom passes. I was like, spoilers for Gears 3.
Dom
Marcus like pass
tomatoes. Then Marcus does it in Gears 3, but Gears 4 there's an exact reference to
you go for that part,
tomato plants, and then Marcus makes a comment about it.
Yeah, true.
And then if you shoot the plants, which I guess you could throw a nade as well.
Yeah.
The guy starts going on a rant about you destroying his tomatoes, which I thought was pretty funny.
Yeah. So
Gears of War has always like a ton of Easter eggs. I missed most of them.
Yeah, me too.
So
that's the problem when you're playing it to finish it instead of playing it for enjoyment, because you're scared about. That's the problem with being on the internet every single day of the week and streaming.
Yeah.
You get things spoiled.
Like, if
you don't want the main time, you don't want the main stuff spoiled. Looking for Easter eggs is not top of your head, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So,
but I'm also fine with like seeing the Easter eggs on Twitter.
Me too. And then going to do them myself. I remember doing like the big golden chicken and
Gears 3.
And then like getting destroyed by it like one shot. Like I remember doing that, but I remember seeing that online first and then doing it myself. So so it was cool. Back to Act 3. No more visions for Kate. So what the hell's happening now that she's been in that machine? What's been awoken, and stuff like that, which I thought was interesting. And then obviously the Kraken appears.
Yeah. How'd you feel about the Kraken?
It was fun.
Yeah, I didn't feel like super into it. I like the Kraken in Act 4 a lot more than I did this. This felt just sort of like added for no real reason.
The only Kraken I like is the one in Pirates of the Caribbean.
I thought you were going to say the alcohol.
What? Is there alcohol called? I don't drink.
There is an alcohol called Kraken.
Let me drink my water real quick.
I thought you said you don't drink, bro.
Yo, I only
That's
drink.
some H2O you're drinking. That's little do we know, Fix is actually like chugging some Kraken right now.
That's vodka, bro. It's just in this gallon bottle. If you're not watching the video version, I'm drinking out of a gallon bottle. So, yeah. But yeah, and then the act sort of ends, and it's a shame, but I was super happy for this act to end because I think it overstayed its welcome. It was a little bit too long.
Yeah, I think that's like really the big point is that it doesn't add a lot to the world, and they don't do a lot in it. It just seems extended for no reason.
Yeah.
Like you said earlier, the water tower stuff is like, it's cool, but like, why am I doing this?
Well, you're doing it to be a good person, but it's like the world is at stake, and I'm doing this water tower.
It's Spider-Man. Like, it makes sense for you to like go and help with that type of stuff because you're playing a superhero. Your job is to make people like better people's lives or whatever. In this, it doesn't make sense because it's like we're fighting a war, and you want me to like worry about your water tower.
Yeah.
Which I guess they're helping you get those, except that helps them as well. So
again, if it was a case of, I feel that's why the difference between a side quest and it being part of the main story, which is we will only do this for you if you help us, and it's not that. It's if you have time and wouldn't mind, will you do? It's like, well, I don't have to do this. Like, there's nothing at stake here. That's why I thought it was. It was side stuff. It was pointless in my opinion. It didn't add in that regard.
They also could have set it up like you guys are low on supplies and all this stuff, and you go into the water tower, and while you're there, you turn it on, but you're also looking for resources, weapons, ammo, and whatnot.
I think it's a case of like, oh yeah, you need to go there because you have to go there first. While you're there, there's something there that you need. Like, if you do that, and again, they kind of do it because it's the Jack components, but I don't think the Jack components matter. They needed to add like something else, which. Because the collectibles not working, then make me not care about it. Jack being upgraded, I already kind of had the Jack upgrades I wanted, which was like the revive and the shock. They're like the two main two that I use. So beyond that, because I was me and Haley were finding these things everywhere. We knew we were our game heads.
You find a lot. I really thought you wouldn't find that much, and they would be. No,
super
you do.
You find
a lot of them.
Yeah. So anywhere you think there might be one, there is one.
Yeah,
it's the truth.
Well, it also. It like gave you a reason to explore in areas that existed in previous Gears games, but if you went down that alley, there was absolutely nothing. It's like, oh, it's just a dead end.
Yeah.
Right. So it just sort of rewarded you for that. But how would you feel if in the next game there are gun upgrades that make your guns perform better? And maybe if you pick up a gun, it doesn't have those upgrades, but you go back to the
Skiff.
What's the vehicle? Skiff, and you can reapply all those upgrades.
I mean, that would there'd be a reason then to go on these side quests and get them.
Okay.
So if anything, it gives me a reason. Like, this is my point. I didn't think it was bad, but there was only one side quest, which is the one I've spoken about, that added something for me.
Two side quests. Oh, okay. They spoke. Okay. I thought you were talking about
added something for me, like that one with the helicopter, which is like a mini boss battle. That added to the story for me. It made sense. It was interesting. None of the other side quests to me were interesting or added to. It expanded the world, yeah, but it didn't add substance for me. It was just a case of doing it.
Okay.
It was more junk food than it was healthy food for me in that regard, where it's like, I'm doing it for this. I can have 2 biscuits, which is 2 side quests. No, instead I've got a whole packet of biscuits that I'm eating because I have to eat them. No, I don't have to. I'm choosing to. It's that was a really weird analogy, but I love biscuits. I'm sorry. But you understand what I'm saying. But yeah, that's that. Then we get to the final act, which I was super shocked that it was only 4 acts. You told me, because usually Gears is 5 acts. So I wasn't upset by it. Don't get me wrong. The big moment, obviously, of this act is the fact that you're planting the beacons, you're doing a lot of boss fights, and you're on vehicles and stuff like that. Nothing really matters until the one big moment at the end, in my opinion, which is the choice. You have a choice if you are playing again, which again annoys me. So as a second player, I get it makes sense for the story, but as a second player, I am literally along for this ride, aren't I? That's it. That's all I am. I don't get to choose. I don't get to choose which way we go. I don't get to choose.
I think Act 1 does a really good job of that, where it's weird because in Act 1 you don't play as Kate, but you play as JD, and JD has tactical options.
Yes.
So I don't know why they didn't transition into Act 2 and such, for like maybe Del takes on some sort of commands or whatever, or maybe Del even is the only one that can control Jack. But no, even as Kate, you can.
Or maybe
Jack.
Del does something.
Yeah, so I get where you're coming with that, and especially at that moment where you make that choice and everything.
That choice was really for those who don't know what we're talking about. I'm sure most of you do if you're listening to this. The choice is either to save Del or to save JD, and I don't get to, me as a player at that point, I didn't get to make that decision. So I'm just like, okay, Haley, pick what you want. And then the game crashed on Haley, so that whole moment was just ruined. But we reloaded it, whatever. Who did you pick?
I saved JD.
Why?
Well, I was really torn between the two, and then I asked Ben, who do you want to save? And Ben was like, I'd save JD. And I was still kind of like, I don't really like JD from Gears 4. Do I want to save JD? Yeah. I ended up saving JD. Just because, like, I don't want to kill Marcus's son. He got nothing right now.
Yeah.
Until he finds out that,
Kate's his granddaughter. That's what you're going with.
We'll
get to that. We'll get to your whatever, which would be super weird because I'm pretty sure JD fancies her, so that would be weird. But
hey, other stories have done it. Why can't Gears of War?
Trust me. But yeah, again, it's really hard to talk about that moment for me because number one, that moment was spoilt for me in my Discord before I finished the game, so the weight of it was already gone. Like, I knew it was coming, so I'm literally sitting there waiting for it to come throughout the whole of Act 4. And then, obviously, the making of the decision, I didn't even get to do that. So, it's a hard one where me and Haley saved Del, which, after talking to you about it off air and off stream, I was like, you know what, you're right. As much as I like Del, because again, I've said it, I like him as a character. I think he's a cool character. He's loyal. He's strong. He's there. He's there for Kate when she's needed him. Where JD isn't. He's not there. He's not loyal. He's not any of those things. But for the story of Gears of War, it doesn't make sense to save Del. Yeah,
because Del dying has so much more impact on everybody. Even like with Foz grows a connection with Del, and I don't know if have you seen that ending?
No, I haven't seen the other endings. No.
Do you mind me?
No, it's spoiler cast. This is my own fault.
So there's a point where you know the part where Foz goes through the wall and he gets out the car and he's like, oh, who's saving who?
Yeah. Oh, we're keeping score now.
Like, who's saving who, Del? Yeah. And then he sees Kate and Kate's like, nah, he's not here.
Oh.
She doesn't say anything, but she just gives him like the shake, and it's sort of, I feel like that moment was a lot more impactful than the JD moment, because we don't see Foz and JD too much. We see them throughout that act, but we don't see them building that friendship. Yeah. And there's the only part that's really impactful is the part with Marcus when JD dies.
Yeah, but the problem with that moment, because the very end.
Well,
not just the very end, but the problem with that moment as well is the fact of it is a split second.
It's like, nothing impactful.
It doesn't matter. Like, it does matter. It matters, and you can tell that he's upset. And he's got his dog tags, which is the ending I got, which is he's got his dog tags, and it matters, and he's sad for about 10 seconds, and then he gets in the car. Fuzz looks at him and goes, he was about to say something, and he's like, just drive. And like, that's it. Yeah. That's it. We don't get like, I don't have a kid, and I've gone cold even talking about it. But if I had a kid and it passed away, I want raw emotion. And right. I want him dropping to the floor and crying. And I get that Marcus is Marcus. I get that. But your child.
Right. But Marcus is a veteran at this point.
But your child. Yeah. I know my aunt lost her kid. Yeah?
Right.
And I know she's a totally different person now compared to who she was. And I don't think it does a good job of portraying that. I get that Marcus lost his friend, he's lost his wife, he's lost people, but there is not, from my understanding, from what I've witnessed, there is nothing like losing a child.
Right.
So I wanted more emotion from him.
I think they could have done that, not there, because it makes sense for Marcus. Marcus being the veteran soldier he is, he's used to loss, and not that this hurts less.
Yeah,
it's like, let's get out of this situation and then I'll mourn.
Yeah,
it's that ending bit when they're all together and Marcus is with everybody and he waves Kate to come over, and it's like that part doesn't make sense to me. It's like that should be a completely different ending on if Del or JD dies.
Yeah,
the fact that they get that ending the same just doesn't make too much sense to me.
I think that whole. They were trying to go for shock value and like making you make the decision. I don't think it works. Tell me the story.
I liked it.
But you don't. You do but think about what you just said. There's no payoff for it. In either sense,
the way they did it.
But that's what I'm saying. Payoff. But that's what we're talking about here. We're not talking about changing the game. We're talking about what we played. Right. Like, It's not a good ending because it's a great ending of.
Up until that
shock
point.
Value, like if that's what you really want to go for, which is you have to choose one of them. Like that okay, cool. But from the story perspective,
the part where you pick JD or Del isn't the ending.
It's the ending for the player of, again, I'm playing as one of those characters. It was my ending. You killed me.
I guess.
I didn't even get a say. You killed my character. So everything everything I had gone through throughout the whole of Gears of War was wiped out.
But then does the game, if the ending starts there, then does the game not start until Act 2?
No, but I understand
because
what you're saying. Because you
don't play as Kate at all in Act 1.
No, I get that. I get what you're saying. You're totally right in your moment. I think the game was so designed for Kate, and then I think this might have been a 9.5 out of 10 for me if I had played this single player, it didn't have co-op, and it was just a Kate story. And then we're talking about the same level of A Last of Us, Horizon Zero Dawn, Spider-Man, on that level. But because I played as a secondary character throughout the whole game, and then you killed me, because don't get me wrong, we didn't kill me, but most people are going to kill Del. And I was talking to you after as well about, like, what's the canon ending? Or my theory is whoever you didn't pick is going to come back alive, and because you see them go down in the rocks, right? I don't know if you get that for JD. So my whole thing is JD or Del, whoever you pick, is going to go down into the swarm, and they're going to put him into the nest or whatever. I can't remember his exact words because I got emotional now. And then he's going to come back and be part of the enemy of the next game. To me, that makes sense for what they're going for.
I don't think they do two different branching stories, though.
But even that would annoy me even more so. So then tell me the story you want to tell then.
But what if they didn't know where they wanted to? What if they wanted the player to choose? And not you, the player, but the players as a whole, where whoever gets the most choices is what
I think that's a cop-out.
I don't think it is.
I do, because you don't tell me a complete story then.
I don't know, because even...
If you don't even know your ending...
I made the choice. I
didn't get to make the choice.
But as someone who made the choice, that moment where I'm making the choice, that's super impactful. I died the first time because I couldn't make a choice. I sat there not realizing I had to make a choice at first. I thought stuff was just going to happen. And by the time I realized it, I'm like, oh, who do I choose? Who do I really not care about? And JD just went through having this sort of redemption arc in Act 3, and even more so in the beginning of Act 4, where he's like standing up for Kate with Jin and whatever.
Yeah. No.
Where
good.
You would have previously thought, oh, JD would just like throw her under the rocks, like, Kate, we kind of need this or whatever. So I don't know. I thought that was impactful, but then again, I didn't play as Dell.
I think you think it's impactful because you got to do it, and you got to think. I'm usually player 1. Usually that's what I am. That is, but I got to experience this game from a player 2 perspective, and it was horrible. To not be able to make decisions, to not be the main, and I don't think that means the game was designed well. To have a lesser character that you're playing, which in this regard, I'm not talking about the whole game as a whole not designed well. I'm talking about in this regard, and especially this moment. This is a key moment that only one person gets to make a decision.
But
why not give me JD or Dom or Dom?
I get what you're saying, but you have to remember, like, Gears of War's always been built up as a co-op game.
Yeah,
and if this is a true like co-op experience, both players seeing different things kind of makes sense. I don't think one player seeing everything with Kate is necessarily a negative. I agree with you that Dell or
it's only a negative if they do it the way they have done it, which is they didn't expand upon it. Again, Gears of War, I've played every single Gears of War there is now. Yeah, maybe I haven't finished Judgment, but I played it. I definitely bought it day one and was like, oh no, this is not good. Including Pop, I played all of the Gears of War games. Yeah, I've never felt not in control while playing them. Even playing as Dom in the first 3. This was the first Gears of War game that I've come away and been like, as a second player, don't get me wrong, and been like, oh, I don't get to make it. Remember, Gears of War 1, 2, and 3. All the only decisions you're making is should we go left or go right, and then split up. It's like, you can do that over a chat adapter, a headset, yeah? Which is, do you want this one or this one? Do you want high ground or low ground? Do you want the? This was such an impactful moment that you took away from one of your players. So let's say this is not the case. This is not the case, but let me finish. This is not the case, but let's say everyone who played this game played it co-op. Yeah? Half of the population of the game that played it didn't get to make an impactful moment in the game.
Okay, but as player 2, you're playing Dell throughout the whole point. Doesn't it make sense for the story for you to feel helpless at that point where you don't have a choice?
It makes
sense.
Where
you don't have all that.
I'm not saying it doesn't make sense. But from a story perspective, it makes sense. From a gameplay perspective, it frustrates me. Because it was a case of, look, I looked at Haley. I'm lucky that Haley's across the road. Imagine I played this like with someone I didn't know. And because I just went to experience it co-op. Which they've said 3 players is the best way to play this game. Which makes sense with the ending, which is like of the characters, you lose 2 of them. 2 of the 2 main characters you lose.
That you run with the whole game.
And it's like, well, hold up a minute. What would have made more sense for me is the part in Act 2 when JD and that turn up, or Act 3, sorry, make me play JD.
Give you the option to play JD?
Well, okay. No, don't give me the option. Make me play JD. Because what you've done now is then you've given me the option of like, who do we save? Oh crap, I don't know. I care about both these characters. Dell's so nice and loyal. JD's on this redemption story. For me, there was none of that. It was kill JD, Haley. I just spent this whole game with Dell, and he as much as he's not as fleshed out as a character, I don't care. The game's not making me care. At that moment, the game's not making me care about any of that. I'm not thinking about Gears of War 6 at that moment, which is what you were saying. Which is, well, maybe they don't know who. Make me play as JD then. So at least, because there's no reason not to.
But does making you play as JD make you connect with the character more at that point?
Yes.
Because the character is there and you're interacting with the character. Okay.
I agree. But I played as Dell. So I'm hearing I'm not hearing that dialogue in like a far distance. I'm not hearing. When you play as a character, you feel. I think anyway, you feel it more. You become it. Well, at least I try to when I play games. I become that person. I'm not Corey playing Dell. I am Dell.
Right.
So in that moment of being helpless, I felt helpless, and I was frustrated that I got caught. And don't get me wrong, the game does its job in that regard. Then right, it done all that. But then I come out of it and I go to a gameplay perspective. I'm like. So what, you're just going to kill the character that I just played for the whole 10-hour or 15-hour story? And Kate, being the player 1, has to make that decision. It just left a bad taste in my mouth. I'm sure other people don't feel like that.
So,
but
if they gave JD or Dell more stuff to do throughout the story, do you think your opinion on that stays the same?
No, I think if you because to me it would make more sense if you made me play JD and then you on that Act 3 and then you fleshed him out a little bit more, which was just with a little bit more dialogue, and then you played up a bit more on the Fars and Dell friendship. So then, boom, they're off doing their own thing. I'm with Kate trying to repair my relationship, taking orders. Makes sense.
Right.
And I'm playing as that character. It then goes, okay, cool. Then the decision comes up. And you're like, damn, I played as both these characters. Both of them have redeeming factors. Then it feels more impactful for me. But because of the way it was done, which is, I spent this whole game, to me it was an easy decision. I didn't get to make the decision, but it was an easy decision. Like, I don't care about JD then. JD done bad things, and he's trying to come back from them. Cool. But Dell is my loyalist, he's my day one, and that's what Hayley said, which was, it wasn't, for her, it wasn't impactful or hard. She didn't shed a tear, like you said it was impactful for you. For her, she was just like, no, Dell, but the game crashed on her the first time. After that, it was like, literally, there was no wait. It was just like, all right, Dell, done. There was no impact. So, yeah. And like I say, being a player too, it just upset me that I didn't get any say. Like, there was no... If you're going to do that, if you're going to not even vote for it, but like, you're expecting me to be on a headset then, or you're expecting me to be in the same room, or you're expecting... There shouldn't be an expectation when I'm playing a game that you designed.
I don't think you need to be in a headset at that point.
No, because I agree with you. But I'm being taken from that whole point, which is maybe what they're going for. I mean, that's definitely what they're going for.
I hear what you're saying, but I think that's what they wanted to go
definitely.
for.
No. Now I'm thinking about it, and now we're talking it out. That's what they were going for. But I didn't feel upset for Dell because I knew that I was going to be saved.
Got it.
Maybe if I was playing with someone like you, there would have been more of a discussion and stuff like that. But I wasn't. It was like Hayley was just like, yeah, we're saving Dell. Done.
Okay.
So,
right.
Yeah. But did you like the ending?
Yeah.
Did you like? Yeah, the hack was so short. It's like less than an hour. So to me, that is the whole ending. That's the ending of the game. But let's talk about it different. Let's say like, did you like the big twist at the end, which is the choice?
Yes, I like the choice.
And did
personally.
You? Yeah, hey, you're totally allowed to like things.
Somebody's gonna be like, you're not allowed to like it.
How dare you?
You gotta add the personally.
How dare you, sir? And was it everything you was hoping for from a Gears of War game from up to that point?
Yes.
Okay, then we move on to the actual ending then. So you fight the what's it called?
The Kraken.
Yeah, you fight the Kraken again.
The boss fight.
Which
I actually like that boss fight. I know you weren't a huge fan of it. I like the fact that you're fighting such a big enemy. I think it is sort of like a really gamified boss fight, which is wait for that thing to recharge and then shoot it in the face, right? But I just like the size difference, and it makes sort of like up to that point, it makes the stakes like, oh, this is how big the stakes are. Yeah. It's a good representation of that, in my opinion.
No, yeah, I get that. I get that. Yeah,
it is, in terms of mechanics, it's not the best like mechanic boss fight and all that.
I don't think it was bad. I just don't think any of the boss fights were that good. It's all stuff that's been done before.
Right.
So, and I wanted more. Like, that's something that I think the previews come out was like, this is a different Gears game. And like, I agree with you. The boss fights are not a different Gears game.
Okay. Yeah, I agree with that.
It's nothing new. There's nothing changed in Gears of War to those bosses. The Berserker, the Kraken, and I don't like it when they repeat bosses, especially for the end boss. They needed to build somebody up to that point,
I feel
which
like
they didn't do.
I really think like what should have happened in Act 3, you see the Kraken, but you don't interact with it. You don't fight with it. You fight with something else at that point. Or
right? I thought it was going to be a case of you fight the Kraken, you shoot it once with its towels coming out its mouth, its tongue things, then it moves its arm and you run out. Cool.
Yeah.
Then we get to the Kraken again at the end. Boom. Fine. But no, I've gone through a whole bloody fight with this Kraken once before. So by the end of the game, I'm like, I've done this. Yeah. I get that we've got this big laser beam gun that we're using to aim and shoot it, and even that's boring, if I'm being honest with you, because it's literally just aim and shoot it. Like, it's just, there's not that payoff.
It doesn't even let you miss.
My character almost just died, And they're still, at the end, I'm like, I don't even care anymore.
Yeah.
I think I'm comparing. You got to remember, I'm comparing this again to Gears of War 4's ending. Like the last thing you see on the screen.
The last moment of Gears of War 4. Gears of War 5 doesn't have that. It doesn't have anything close to that. Because that last moment is if that last moment was impactful by the choice you made earlier, I think that last moment is so much more powerful.
Yes.
But it's literally the same ending, and there's no really conversation about what we lost and what happened.
No, there's none of that because they're going to explore that in the next game, which I don't want.
Kate's just like, I know what we have to do.
Well,
and that's it.
She's coming. No, we're going to her. Boom, 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 done. I'm like,
It's like build it up with the emotion of whoever was lost and add some dialogue and add some.
Well, if the plan is JD's going to become, in my game, JD's going to become an enemy type, hint to that. Like, that's a cool ending for us to think about. I remember Gears of War 4, that ending. And if you're someone who played Gears of War 4, that ending was so strong because it left open-ended questions. What's the open-ended question of Gears of War or Gears 5? We're going to fight the Queen, who her dad is. And I don't really think that's that important because it's not the same. It hasn't got that same level.
I think it would have felt a lot better also if they did something with Queen Reyna, who they introduced in Act 4. She's the one who kills the character you don't choose, by the way.
No,
but they don't build her at all.
No,
because like throughout the whole campaign in Act 2, when you hear a voice, you're hearing Queen Mira. You're not hearing Queen Reyna. You're not hearing her mother. I think you hear her mother and see her mother every like a few times, but not as much as Queen Mira, right? And so there just isn't like the game's biggest fault would be that it doesn't have a strong antagonist.
Nope.
The biggest antagonist the game had, in my opinion, is actually like JD in Act 1. Or like, and in the start of Act 2, it's like, I don't like JD. But I don't,
Don't you think that would have been even stronger if you made me play JD as well? If he was, for that Act 3, and he's going through the redemption there. Like,
no,
it would have been really, really cool. And I thought, I did the ending. Don't get me wrong, the ending was spoiled for me. So that instantly doesn't help the game's argument, which that's not the game's fault. That's my fault.
Right. So do you think
go on.
If it wasn't spoiled for you, that ending would have been better? The choice?
Yeah, of course it would have. 100% it would. I still think I would have had the exactly the same gripes I'm having right now, which would have left me frustrated with it as a player, not as the story. Right. That's what I think before people want to come at me on Twitter or something, it's like, no, I understand the story, it makes sense. But as the player, who is the second player, I have nothing to do in that moment again. The big moment of the game, I can't make that decision.
Okay. So, well, the big moment of the game is when Jack dies.
Obviously, I was just going to say...
Respect to Jack. I actually felt something.
No, so did I.
Was like...
But because they built up Jack as a character very well, which is... Kate's like, I don't hate you at the beginning of the game. I don't hate you, blah, 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 blah. Then they're building a relationship. Then we get to the end part, and Jack sacrifices himself, uses himself as a beacon for the Hammer of Dawn.
In my story, Jack just didn't want to go on living without Del.
That makes more sense.
Yeah.
For a story, that makes more sense.
Even if like Del lives, it still makes more sense. He wants to protect Del or whatever.
You could look at it both ways.
I thought that death was done really, really well.
Yeah, because it made sense.
Yeah.
It made sense. Think about what we just said. Who kills the two characters? Somebody who's not even in the game half the time.
Queen Reyna. Yeah. I really think if you had in general, in the first Gears when Ram kills what's his name? Min?
Min. Yeah, that's so at the start of the game, but it sets the tone for the whole damn game.
It introduces the villain and it sets up the villain. It's like he's holding on to the chainsaw and like absolutely nothing. Mm-hmm. And from what you know, and like even early on, you use the chainsaw by that point. It's like, oh, the chainsaw is cutting these locusts. This guy's stopping it with his hand. What's up with him, right?
Yeah.
And this game just doesn't have that. But I don't think Gears of War has really had that since Gears 1.
Since Ram.
It's tried, and it's been semi-successful at parts.
Yeah, even right? To be fair, thinking about it, I didn't like the end boss on Gears of War 3, which is the Queen.
Yeah,
didn't like that boss.
It felt kind of
didn't like that boss.
Whatever.
What's 2? 2's boss would have been.
Was it Scourge? Was Scourge the end boss?
No, because you kill him
Scourge
earlier.
Is the main baddie of that.
Yeah, he's the main baddie, but you kill him earlier than that.
Yeah.
Which Scourge is not even a great character. He's a good character design.
Yeah.
But his character isn't great. So, I agree with you on the case of Gears, that's something Gears is still searching for, which is terrible after 6 games.
Yeah, but like the thing is, like, you had Ram and you have to kill him, and they kill the main baddie after.
But we got Berserk 2.2. Imagine Ram comes out of nowhere. That would be the mad one. Ram comes out of nowhere. At 2.0, they can do it.
2.0 Ram was supposed to be the villain of Gears 4, and we don't get that. The guy who gets his hand chopped off, because he's like shaping up to be a
imagine that dude pops out of nowhere and kills either JD.
We kill him.
Or,
he's dead.
I know. But what I'm saying is, like, imagine that.
Somebody we can actually
This moment was like.
But it's also like, it's just the hive mind that's killing her, because Queen Reyna isn't even a person at this point, and it also makes me dislike Mira more than I disliked her before. Because I thought Queen Mira was a great character. I didn't think she was a great villain for the series, but I thought she was a great character, and her whole story and her whole part in the overall Gears story. But it's like, was Queen Mira even a character of her own, or was it just the Swarm thought, or the hive mind, or whatever? And so,
who knows?
I don't know. Yeah.
Crash, we did it.
Yeah.
Did we miss anything that you wanted to talk about on this Gears of War review / spoiler cast?
Act 1.
We missed Coltrane, I guess, which I am a huge Coltrane fan. I didn't care. I was like, oh no, Coltrane's dead. I was like, no, he's not. Nah, okay, carry on.
I cared about that. I like that. I really thought they were gonna kill Coltrane.
Nah, it's too obvious.
But Coltrane came in with like a motorcycle attached with grenades.
That was sick.
That was very sick, and I'm like, oh, he's doing something else stupid again.
Yeah,
Cole's dead.
Yeah, no,
I was like, he's not gonna get away with this. Next game, Cole definitely dies. Someone dies.
One of the old characters. I think this is the end of Dom's story, because
Marcus,
sorry. Yeah, his story.
Yeah, because you tie up the Anya and you like.
Well, you tie up Anya. You tie up.
It's the end of the Marcus
JD,
story.
I don't know what's.
It's only the end of Marcus's story. I think if JD's alive, I don't think.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But this is what I'm saying to you, which is why it's such a unimpactful ending. Like, that moment is so unimpactful because it now leaves us with 6.
But it leaves so many options for the story. And I really think it is sort of like they're going to let the player decide.
I hate that.
Not
I hate that.
You as an individual. I like that.
I hate that.
I loved it when Infamous did that.
Because I never played Infamous because, Xbox for life, baby. Pull up those X's. No. For me, it's a case of because. So what was the point? What's the point in that whole moment? Like, it's taken away if that is the case. It's like, it has to be the way I said it. It has to be that way.
No,
it has to be. Which is a case of the either or becomes the enemy, and the game reads the data of if you played the last game. It has to be that. It has to be.
I don't know. I don't like that. I don't like if either of them become the enemy.
I don't think they're going to be the main enemy, because obviously we know who the main enemy is. But even
an enemy in general. I think that's... Because, like, when somebody becomes... Let's say that does happen and one of them becomes a swarm. They don't even look the same.
They look enough the same.
They become a monster.
Yeah, but that's the point.
Yeah, but not like a monster like Queen Reyna. They become a swarm. Because, like, Reyna still, like, retains her, like, how she looks. They wouldn't.
I don't know
doing
how
anything other than that makes that character just feel out of place at that point.
I reckon I'm right.
Okay. You wanna make a bet?
I already owe you $25 in bits. I'm definitely not betting you. No way.
Okay.
No way.
I
need to win. I need to win something. We've still got more bets on the go at the moment. I've got to win one of those first. I can't remember, but we do have one.
We'll remember once it
comes up. Like, yo, I swear I bet you that. Clip it. Go find the clip. Anyway, that is it, Chris. Let's plug, and get ourselves out of here. What have we got to plug this week, my friend?
Twitch.tv/Crushnick.
Cool.
Live 3 days a week.
What days?
Wednesday, Friday, Saturday.
And what time?
5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Interesting.
9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
That's not GMT, but you're lucky. Most of this audience is American.
GMT, I can tell you the GMT.
Nah, it's fine. We don't care.
10 p.m. GMT to 1 12 p.m. GMT, 12 a.m. GMT, not 12 p.m.
You can find me everywhere at MC Fixer. This will be going up obviously on all podcast services around the world, and you can watch it again on YouTube, youtube.com/MC Fixer. If you enjoyed this conversation and you want more of these, please hit us up in my Discord or in Crash's, but I prefer it to be mine, MC Fixer. You can obviously tweet us at MC Fixer. Even if you're people watching the show right now on Twitch, let us know on Twitter or Discord or Facebook. Let us know, because I'd love to do another one of these for Borderlands and every game we play going forward. I thought this was really fun. We dove in deep. Yeah. We had deep discussions. We disagreed. If you want more of this content, let us know.
Let us know what you liked and disliked and what you'd like to see changed in it, in the format, that we could do better.
And no, Zyger, that doesn't mean just adding you to the cast.
Zyger can take my place.
I'm going to knock you out. Until next time, I will love you, leave you, and see you later. Goodbye.
Bye.